Hello everyone, how are you doing? This is Brandon. I made a film in China. Well, actually, I made a couple of films in China, but not professional, okay? I made a couple of short films, and I made a full-length movie. The main one that I'm going to focus on is the full-length movie, because number one, that's much more involved and much harder to do than making a short film. Second of all, it's my first film ever to make, my first full-length film ever to make. And third, I made it in another country, working with my students, my English students, and they wanted to shoot it in English, not in Chinese. So I thought it would be a good opportunity to discuss that with you. If you're interested in making a feature film, a full-length feature film, how hard is that? Well, I'm going to use this to talk about that. Let's back up just a little bit. About 6 years ago, just a little over 6 years ago, I moved from the US to China and spent a little bit of time in Guangzhou. From there, I spent about a month in Thailand, just relaxing on the beach, and then about 3 months or so in Japan. But teaching in Japan is not a good way to make money. If you can get a decent full-time teaching job, the pay is not that good. It's just enough really to get by and not have any extra money to do anything. So the only benefit of teaching in Japan, apart from, you know, the opportunity of being abroad and having that experience, is to be in Japan and learn the language, experience the culture, and make friends. So really, there you go, the living abroad, teaching abroad experience, plus the Japan experience. Those are the main benefits, because you're not gonna make a living really teaching, and you're not gonna save any money teaching. However, you can make a living definitely teaching in China. Let me jump over this water. And you can definitely save money. Just make sure that you take the right offer and all that stuff. But anyway, this video is about making films. So what does all that have to do with making films? Well, while I was teaching in Jiangsu, which is not too far, where I was at is not too far from Shanghai. And when my students saw my short films, they were really interested in making a film of their own. But there were so many students who wanted to be a part of the project that we wound up having, I don't know, close to 100 who really wanted, or who were interested rather, in doing the film. But ultimately, we wound up having just under 50 people total who actually helped out with the film in some capacity. Some of those were there every single time we filmed, and then some of them were only able to come a couple of times. A few of them started in the beginning and then dropped out, and some came near the end and helped us wrap it up, but weren't there in the beginning. So everybody came on and helped in different capacities, and I'm appreciative for all their help, every single one of them. But how hard was it? How hard was it to make this full-length film, my first ever? Well, there were different challenges. If you make your own full-length film in your home country, or in a language that you understand really well, you're not going to have the language challenge that I had. My two lead actors, I had several actors, but my two lead actors were a young guy who was lower level English, maybe just under intermediate, kind of a lower intermediate level, and a lot of instructional language he didn't understand. So if I told him maybe just to back up, he didn't understand that. So some simple language, turn, he didn't understand. So I had to rely on the other people present to tell him in Chinese what I was saying. and trying to explain each scene, what he's supposed to be doing, where he's supposed to be moving, how he's supposed to be saying the words and giving the lines. Every single thing I had to tell him was a challenge. So that was one issue. But the actress, her English level wasn't really any better. The difference was she was a little younger. She was in high school. So even though we also had the language challenge, she seemed to be a little more able to grasp what I was trying to say. And maybe that's because she had several girls with her that could understand me, and they were doing her makeup, so they were able to tell her more quickly what was going on. But the big challenge with her wasn't the language, and the biggest challenge with him wasn't the language. The biggest challenge for both of them actually was schedules, because in the very beginning we started in the summer and both of them were available every weekend. We could only shoot on Sundays because my 2 days off were Sunday and Monday. So Sundays we reserved for filming, and Mondays were my day to sit alone on the computer and just go through the footage and see what we got, how we did, if we needed to reshoot anything, what we were missing, and edit the film together as we went. So I not only wrote the story and directed it, but here's the thing, and this is why I really feel like there are so many challenges for me to do with this film, that if you want to make a film and everybody around you, number one, can understand the language fine, and number two, you actually have a cast and crew who have a little experience in making a film, or at least know how to use the camera, know how to use the sound recorder and the lights, and can set those things up, and they understand, you know, the 3-point lighting and just some various simple basic things about either photography or filmmaking. If you have those things, then you're going to have an easier time than what I did, because this is what I had to do. Okay, you already know about the language issue, right? I told you about the. Maybe it will be easier for you to hear me if I do this. I'm sorry, it's raining a little bit, so just and it's also a little chilly, so I'm trying to stay warm. My hands are really cold, but I gotta hold the camera. Actually, let me switch hands here so I can rest my other hand and warm it up a little. Okay, so you already know the first challenge that I had, which was the language issue, right? Okay, so what I basically did was I had a really good assistant. He was the kind of the main location manager. Him and my girlfriend at the time were the location managers, but his English level was much better than pretty much everyone else, and so he was also my main producer, and he was so important to the whole shoot. He was completely dependable. He translated all the important messages and all the important things and did the interpretation on site. He was the most dependable guy other than my girlfriend at the time. They were both just indispensable. So the language issue, he helped me get through that. Okay, so that was the first big thing. The next thing was nobody knew how to use the equipment. Now luckily, one of my students, she had a Canon 6D, and I was very happy about that because number one, I have experience using DSLRs. Number two, that camera is full frame, which I wanted because I wanted to show the film on a big screen, and I thought this would be the best option. My camera is just a T3i small sensor camera with it does have HD video in 24 frames a second, but it just didn't have the low light capabilities. It didn't have the sensor that the 6D has, and I just knew it wouldn't look as good as the 6D. So she said we could use it. Even when she wasn't available to come, she still gave us the camera. She was so awesome about that. So that was another great thing. But here's the thing, even though she had that camera and other people there had used similar cameras before, all they really knew was point and shoot photography with like automatic settings. None of them knew how to use these cameras for filmmaking or even just basic video shooting. And I spent a little money to buy a stabilizer and to mount the camera on, as well as a tripod for some still shots. And I bought an HDMI cable with a screen so we could have a better screen to see the shots. I even bought a focus puller, so I had 3 people basically running the camera, so I could just direct and then kind of instruct everyone. I had to teach them how to use the focus puller. I had to teach them how to set everything up, so I didn't have to do that every time. The setup didn't work quite as well as it should have. It was not a very expensive setup, so it wasn't that awesome. Let me switch hands again. So anyway, to make a long story short, the camera, the focusing, the sound, I had a Zoom, I think it's the H4n, the Zoom recorder, audio recorder, with a couple of XLR cables, and with I had a fishing pole. It's not a like a fishing pole for just. It's like a extendable pole with an attachment on the end, but I just rigged it up for my boom mic, and I had to teach them how to use that. I had to teach them how to use my lights that I bought for the shoot. All the lights were battery powered, so I had to buy extra batteries and get them all charged up. Every single time we went out, I went out with them fully charged, and I'd have to give them to the lighting guys, and then they would set it up. And so I had to train everybody how to do all these things: the camera, the lights, the sound. Luckily, I had a couple of girls there who were really good with makeup, and they just took that over. My actress, her headdress, dress, and makeup and everything took over 3 hours the first time, and from there they got a little faster. It usually took between 2 and 2.5 hours to get her ready. So I would just schedule the shoots in a way to where we could go out and start shooting. We'd go on location and start shooting with the guy first for any scenes that he needed, and she would just show up. And whenever she showed up, we would just shoot together the scenes with them together. Anytime we could have them both together at the same time, that was our priority. Our priority was to shoot with them together because of the schedules. This is China, so she's in high school, and her parents' priority was her to do well on her tests. And so she sometimes couldn't come to the shoot because she had to study for a big test. So we had to get as much done as we could in the summer, and we did, but we still had a lot more to do. I think we shot about 75% of everything we needed with both of them together before the summer was over. But from there, the production slowed way down. And this is where I get into the third biggest challenge of making this film. So the first one, the language deal for us, right? Second thing was training everybody on how to use the equipment, because they've never used it like that before. Some of the equipment they've never used ever. They even broke a couple of things, which I was a little annoyed about, but we were able to fix it and move on. But the third thing was the schedules, and that was the difficult thing. And I hear other people, saying the same thing. I just watched a video the other day. If I can remember, I'll put the link down below. He was talking about a film that he made. He said it was terrible, but he learned a lot of lessons from it. And a lot of the things that he said I identify with. And one of the things he talked about was everybody's schedule and how they had to really hurry up and do like all the final shots and stuff in one day, because two people were moving, and that after that day they were literally gonna eat like some ice cream or something and then leave town. I mean, they had to go. There were not going to be any reshoots. They had to finish. And it got to the point where my girlfriend literally told me, she said, "We're not going to finish this film, are we?" And that really made me upset, because I feel like too many projects in my life I've started so many freaking things, man. I've started a lot of stuff and just didn't finish, and just start off really energetic and gung-ho, and I can see it in my mind what it's going to look like, and then it just stays like that. It stays it looks like somebody's in the middle of working on something, maybe half done, and it's looking cool, but it just never gets finished. And that was kind of the story of my life. But I was like, no, I can't let this happen, because first of all, I don't want to be like that, especially with film, something I love to do. And second of all, the film itself we were making was so unique. It was unlike anything I'd ever seen before. It wasn't just a film, it had a purpose. And the morale of the crew and the cast, they had spent so much time and so many weekends, so many Sundays, they gave up to be there. Sometimes all day. We go out and in the morning and shoot all the morning and afternoon scenes that we could, and then in the evening we would shoot. And I was paying for their lunch and their dinner sometimes. I was covering that. That was my agreement with them. I couldn't pay them. But they wanted to make the film, but in their minds, we just go out, for a few times. We shoot some scenes, Brandon puts them together, and we'll watch it, in about a month. They had completely unrealistic expectations based on no experience at all, right? Now, I had never made a full-length film before, but I'd made many short films and sketches, and so my longest film up to that point was like 15 minutes long. And so I had an idea that this was going to take a while, of how long it would actually take. And so I kept telling them, number one, if you could just see the footage that we've got so far and how special it is, because it was, and it is special. It's so special if you could just see it. But no one was motivated. No matter what I showed them, I would put little clips in our WeChat group, in our social group. I would put pictures that I thought were just really beautiful, and they just couldn't see it like I was seeing it. But my girlfriend was seeing it, because she was there with me, and she was seeing me edit it. And so that was it. I didn't have any support. It was just me in front of my computer, trying to get the editing done, trying to keep everybody like energetic. But they were just like, let's just finish it and watch it. Let's just watch it and be done with it. That's kind of the attitude I had, they had. But I told them one day, I had a meeting with my main guy. His name is Carrie. Carrie and I sat down and had a meeting with my girlfriend, and just the three of us. And I said, listen, guy, I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking of a way to modify the story so that we could spend one day to shoot the rest of the scenes that we need. And if everybody can come and commit to being there, we can shoot all of the scenes. We can shoot the whole thing. We can finish, and the film can be finished. But if even just one or two people can't be there to shoot these last scenes, then I've already got an idea for how to finish the movie without them. So I'll just take everybody out of those scenes, and I'll just focus on the main characters, and I'll rewrite the story, and we'll shoot it and be finished, but they won't be in it. Well, he was able to interpret that and translate it or whatever for the group. And once they realized that, oh my gosh, Brandon is gonna have to take us out of the movie. We can't have that. We put so much time into it. We wanna finish it, right? And so they all committed to being there. And I was very nervous the day that we went to shoot, because we had a long day schedule. We had a lot of stuff to do. But they showed up. And one guy, he was so busy, but he had a very small part in the film. He just had a few lines. But I decided to get, as soon as he arrived, he didn't have much time to be there, like less than 30 minutes or something. And as soon as he arrived, I shot all of his lines. I got everybody to kind of gather together, and so I could shoot him with the group. And we did those scenes with him, and then he left. And I was able to edit it together later, and it worked out okay. There was no problem. There were some things that I forgot, and there were actually a couple of lines one of the guy was supposed to give, but they weren't crucial. But I just felt bad because I felt like he should have been in that scene more. But later he was like, no dude, no, don't worry about it, because I told him we could go back and shoot some close-ups of him saying those scenes, and he was like, nah. He really didn't want to. He just wanted to see the film. But anyway, the scheduling thing was such a big deal, and my lead actor, he had moved to another city, and the actress was busy in school, right? She wasn't out. It was no longer summer. But the second summer, that's right, the second summer, that's when we were able to get together and finish. And it was towards the end of that summer. And I had to spend a lot of time working on some effects and editing and sound and music mixing and titles and getting everybody's name into it. I did literally all of that alone. Everything you see on the screen, it is edited and put together just by me, no one else. And so I was so freaking busy for months and months. Even though I'd been editing the film as I went, oh man, there was so much stuff to go through, all the audio files, the video files, trying to cut out all the places where they messed up or they looked at the camera, because that was one of the things they would not stop doing, is looking at the camera. Man, oh my gosh, some of the scenes we did, just a simple shot, just walk over there, look this way, and then walk away. It's very simple. And they'd walk over there, stop, and look at the camera, and then walk away. And I'd say, no, don't look at the camera, look this way. And they'd say, I didn't look at the camera. Really? And so I'd pull the video up and show them. They'd go, oh. Ah. And so I wasn't working with professionals, all right? I don't have to tell an actor, don't look at the camera. A person who has actual acting experience on a film doesn't need to be told, don't look at the camera, unless of course there's a reason for it. So anyway, there we go. So that was another, I guess that's point number 4, is the, no acting experience amongst any of them. So besides the language stuff and learning the equipment and the scheduling, there was also the lack of experience in the acting department, which is kind of connected to the lack of experience in actually shooting a film. But anyway, I would say also you could add into that money. If you don't include the equipment that I already had and the few pieces of equipment that I bought, I spent around $2,000 on the film. But if you wanted to add in the camera and the stabilizer, like a handheld stabilizer that I had, and the tripod, the extra SD cards that I had to buy, those were freaking expensive. If you want to add in all that other stuff, easily it's over $3,000. And I also spent about $500 to rent a local cinema just for a couple of hours so we could watch it on the biggest screen they had. So we actually watched it on a full-size film screen in a real cinema, and we had about 200 people show up. That was awesome. If you've never watched one of your films on a full screen, whoa, at least I know that feeling already. I know that feeling at least one time. So that's great, and that's awesome. But anyway, I think those are the main things that I would say. Maybe the last thing I'll add, the difficult part of making a full-length film is the physical and mental stress that's on you as the director to lead everybody. Everybody's looking to you, and sometimes, especially when something doesn't go the way that you planned it, maybe a location or a person. There was one day when we went out to shoot, and the actor that was supposed to be there to play the part at a museum. I mean, we had a museum that let us shoot in the museum for free. We all showed up, we were ready to go, and he wasn't there, and he wasn't answering his the messages I tried to call. Didn't hear from him. Finally, I heard from him later, and he had gone out the night before drinking and decided that his friend came in to see him from out of town. That's another thing that happens sometime in China. I don't get. I've been just written off at the last moment for several things, and it's for the lamest excuses. Oh, my father-in-law said he wanted to have dinner with me, so I can't meet you. And they'll tell me this literally at the last minute or after the time they were supposed to meet me. And my question is, okay, first of all, that's not okay. You made an appointment with me first. You can tell them, I'll see you tomorrow, or I'll see you later, because Brandon and I made this arrangement several days ago. But the other thing is, why wouldn't you tell me before we were supposed to meet? Because he said his friend showed up, he had to go out with him, and then the next day, they decided the next day they were going to go to Shanghai together. You knew all this last night, and you didn't tell me until after you were supposed to be on set? Crazy, absolutely crazy. But it worked out, because one of the guys who was helping out with the audio, his English name is Luffy, he played that part, and he was awesome. He did a really amazing job with it. So that's the cool thing. If you're just patient, I got to my hotel, so I'm going to stop right here. I don't want to go in blabbering. If you're just patient, you can get through all these things. Maybe you think you don't even have a couple $1,000s to make a film. Well, you don't have to have that. If you have just a few people around you who really believe in, and maybe not necessarily just to believe in you, but to believe in the project, believe in actually shooting a film, then that's enough. I would much rather have a crew of people who believe in what we're doing rather than having a crew of people who are experienced but don't want to be there or don't think it's good or complaining. You won't be able to see your vision come to life. And it was a big learning experience for me, and I'm sure that if you're able to do the same thing, which I'm sure you are able to do the same thing. I'm sure you are. It's just that if you think it's too difficult or you can't do it, then you won't be able to. But if you can do it at least once, you can say how many people have done this, how many people have made a full-length film. And if I can make a film in China with Chinese students in English and work through all of those issues and get it done and then sit down with them and watch it on the screen, then I know you can. And this is the last thing I want to tell you, which is the result, because it took us from start to finish, from the time we actually started shooting to the time we watched it in the cinema, the same June, July, August. It was about a year and a half. So 18 months from the time we actually started shooting to the time we sat down and watched it in the cinema. Think about that. But we got it finished. We shot all day that last Sunday, and I got all the footage that I needed. And a friend of mine came in after that, and she had helped out with some of the lighting and the audio before, but she came in and helped me do one more scene, and we knocked it out, and we watched it in the cinema. Now, here's the thing. While we were sitting there, actually, I went up to the booth where the projector is to hook up the computer to their digital projector and show it. And as soon as it was playing, my girlfriend and I walked down to the cinema. Everyone was already inside the cinema. And whenever we walked in, they had saved me some seats right in the middle. When I came in, everybody started cheering and clapping. That was really cool. And then we sat down, the movie came on, and people cheered a little bit because it came on. But after a few minutes, just a few minutes, while the movie was going, the scene comes up where the two characters meet for the first time. And several people are turning around and looking at me and calling my name. And I look over there and they're going, this looks great. It looks great. So they're loving it. And then at the end, I put in pictures of the production with the credits. And they just loved it. It was so awesome. And then whenever we were leaving the cinema, they were talking about it. And everybody was suddenly just very sad. And in our movie group on WeChat, in our social group, they began talking about how they want to make another one because they're so sad. It's over. It's all over. And they didn't realize, but they finally realized, and they saw what I saw this whole time. So for a year and a half, What I was seeing as I was putting this together, the beauty of it, the specialness of it, what I was seeing, they finally saw it. And we were able to see it together in the theater, eating popcorn and having Cokes. It was awesome. It was great. Best project I've ever done my entire life. And I did that in 2016. We finished it in 2016. It was almost 3 years ago from this time, about 2.5 years ago when we finished. And from then until now, I haven't done anything significant yet as far as filming. Several people wanted to help me make another one, and I came up with some ideas, and we planned, and we started a movie group, but we never actually did anything. And right now I have a special job that I won't go into detail about, but it's a private teaching position. But I am planning during my free time to make another film. But you know, right now I'm 44. I turned 44 this year, and I haven't gotten into the professional filmmaking yet. But my goal is to have my own production company, make my own films, and to become an established, recognized director. And I don't know how old you are, or where you are, or what you're doing, but if you want to make films, you can do it. I know you can do it. I don't know what else to say, so I guess I'll leave it there. I just felt like sharing all that with you. I was inspired by this other video that a guy made, and if I can find that video, I'll put a link to it below, and I'll say a special thank you to you for inspiring me to make this video. But anyway, you guys have a good night, and I'll see you next time. By the way, if you didn't see my review of the Avengers Endgame movie, you can check that out. I'll put that link below. If you like any of these videos, I will put your name in a bucket. I guess a virtual bucket on the computer, and I'll randomly draw one name, and I'm going to give away an Avengers Endgame metal popcorn tin, and I'll send it from China to you. Anyway, my best to you all, guys and gals, and I'll see you later. Bye-bye.